Hold on. If you pick up a white crystal and your fingernail scratches a groove straight into it, do not put it back. That scratch means it is softer than a 2.5 on the Mohs scale. And that means it is not quartz, not calcite, not feldspar. It is selenite. In 2019, a collector named Ivar Skarsgård brought 1.4 meters of that exact mineral to the Tucson Gem Show. 40 kilograms extracted from a sealed Mexican cave where unprotected humans die in 10 minutes. He sold it for $3,200. By the end of this, you will know how to run a Mohs hardness scratch test with a $30 SuiToWan pick set that separates selenite from every lookalike in 4 seconds, and an ultraviolet fluorescence test with a $55 Convoy S2 Plus 365 nanometer lamp that makes selenite glow cream blue, while calcite betrays itself in orange-red, 2 minerals identical to the naked eye that split apart completely in the dark. 4 field tests, 4 tools, and the difference between a $5 rock and a $4,000 museum specimen sitting in the same creek bed. That identical crystal chemistry is forming right now on free BLM land in Tooele County, Utah, where you can legally collect 25 pounds a day at zero cost, but only if you know exactly what you are looking at. This story does not start with a collector writing a check. It starts 300 meters underground in the Chihuahua desert, where the Earth held its temperature at exactly 58 degrees Celsius for 500,000 years without flinching. I trained as a diamond grader in Antwerp, and the first thing they teach you in the cutting houses is that every stone is a thermometer. Every inclusion, every growth plane, every fracture records the exact conditions that built it. Selenite is no different. Gypsum is calcium sulfate dihydrate, 2 water molecules locked inside every unit cell, soft and clear as a winter pane. Anhydrite is the same calcium sulfate but bone dry, 0 water, a mineral that only holds together above 58 degrees Celsius. Drop the temperature to that threshold, flood the system with saturated water, and anhydrite dissolves molecule by molecule, then recrystallizes as selenite. That single number, 58 degrees Celsius, is the difference between a handful of powder and a cathedral of crystal. In the year 2000, Juan Sanchez and Pedro Sandoval of the Knolls Mining Company were chasing lead, zinc, and silver through a new drift 300 meters below Chihuahua State. They pumped water out of a flooded passage and broke into a sealed chamber 30 meters long and 10 meters wide. Their headlamps caught the edges of selenite crystals so massive they blocked the tunnel. Translucent white pillars of calcium sulfate, each one up to 12 meters long and weighing 50 metric tons. The largest natural crystals ever documented on Earth. I have held Naica specimens in my hands at mineral shows, and the weight of even a small section surprises you. The density feels wrong for something that clear, but the air in that chamber would kill you before you could admire anything. 58 degrees Celsius, 100% humidity. Water vapor condenses inside your lungs. Unprotected, you last about 10 minutes before your body shuts down. Researchers wore custom refrigeration suits packed with ice and cold water tubes, and even then, they got 30 minutes per session before they had to be hauled out. Juan Manuel Garcia Ruiz led the team that dated those crystals using uranium-thorium methods and fluid inclusions. The growth window pinned at approximately 500,000 years, all at the exact anhydrite gypsum transition temperature. Think about that for a second. 500,000 years of geological patience, locked at one temperature, building one crystal the size of a city bus. The growth rate is fractions of a millimeter per 1,000 years. If the temperature stays stable, you get a few enormous crystals. If it fluctuates even slightly, you get millions of tiny ones. The Cave of Swords, just up the mountain in the same mine, proves this variable cold. Same mineral, same mountain, Same chemistry. But the Cave of Swords cooled faster. The temperature window closed sooner, and the crystals there only reached about 1 meter. Hold that comparison in your mind like a specimen under a loupe, because it is the diagnostic tool this entire video is built around. If you can read a deposit's temperature history, you can predict its crystal size. If you want exact coordinates, field guides, and the tools I carry in the dirt every week, subscribe now. I cover this every single video. The growth mechanism seemed like it would run forever. It did not. In January 2015, the lower levels of the Naica mine flooded from natural causes. Over 9 months, Industrias Panoles tried everything to lower the water and resume operations. Every attempt failed. On October 13, 2015, Panoles officially announced the indefinite suspension of all mining at Naica. The Cave of Crystals was sealed behind rising water. Garcia Ruiz had argued for preservation, saying the crystals survived better submerged in their original hydrothermal fluid than exposed to the dry air of the mine, where dehydration damage set in almost immediately. He was right about the mineralogy, but the decision that mattered was made by accountants, not geologists. One documented incident captures the stakes of that place. A mine worker tried to steal selenite from the cave and died in the attempt, suffocated by the heat and humidity before he could reach the exit. The crystals are now submerged and growing again. No legal access exists. The Mexican government has not designated the site as a protected reserve. Anyone framing Naica as a travel destination is misleading their audience. So the question becomes practical. If the world's most spectacular selenite is locked behind rising water and lethal heat, where do you actually go? 4 field tests first, because without them, you are just picking up rocks and guessing. First test, hardness scratch. Gypsum sits at hardness 2 on the Mohs scale. Your fingernail will scratch it. A SuiToWan Mohs hardness pick, priced at $30 on Amazon, gives you a calibrated reference from 1 to 10. Anything that resists your fingernail is not selenite. That is quartz at 7, or calcite at 3. 4 seconds, 1 scratch, and you have eliminated 90% of the white minerals in any creek bed. Second test, cleavage inspection with a 10 power loupe. The Bausch and Lomb Hastings triplet at $58 from ASC Scientific is the standard in the gem trade, and the one I carry in my field vest. Selenite cleaves in 3 directions, producing flat, mirror-like faces with a distinctive pearly luster that catches light like wet glass. Calcite cleaves into rhombohedral blocks, angled fragments, rather than the flat sheets selenite shows. Once you have seen both under magnification, you will never confuse them again. Third test, the flexibility test. This one costs nothing. Satin spar, the fibrous variety of selenite, will bend slightly before it breaks. Hold a thin sliver between 2 fingers and apply gentle pressure. The parallel alignment of its fibrous crystal structure allows limited flex along the cleavage planes. Calcite snaps immediately. Quartz does not bend at all. No other common white mineral in the field does this. It is a field instant identifier that I use before I even pull out the loupe. Fourth test, UV fluorescence. The Convoy S2 plus 365 nanometer shortwave UV lamp is available for $55 from the Petoskey Stone. Do not buy it from Amazon. The filters on most Amazon listings are inadequate, and you will get visible light bleed that ruins the test. In darkness, selenite glows cream to pale blue under 365 nanometer UV. Naica-type specimens with specific trace inclusions show a strong blue-white response. Calcite fluoresces orange-red because of manganese activators in its crystal lattice. 2 completely different colors from 2 minerals that look identical in daylight. I have watched experienced collectors walk past selenite for years because they never carried a UV lamp in the field. The Bureau of Land Management managed gypsum dunes near Knolls, Tooele County, Utah, are open for casual collecting with no fee. Personal use limits allow up to 25 pounds per day, plus one additional piece, with a 250-pound annual cap. Selenite crystals here form in an evaporative setting as saline groundwater precipitates gypsum into muds and dry lake margins. The crystals are typically clear to amber, up to several centimeters. Well-formed blades with clean cleavage faces. Not meters, but real selenite you can legally take home today. The Salt Plains National Wildlife Refuge in Major County, Oklahoma. Not the state park, the Federal Wildlife Refuge southwest of the lake. Digging for hourglass selenite is permitted in the marked crystal digging area from April 1st through October 15th, sunrise to sunset, at no charge. The limit is 3 pounds per person per day. Hourglass selenite forms here because iron-stained sediment gets trapped inside the crystal during rapid growth cycles as groundwater levels fluctuate, creating a distinctive bow tie inclusion pattern visible when you hold a crystal up to the light. I have pulled pieces out of that wet sand that stopped me cold. The pattern inside looks like someone painted it there. The selenite rose fields near Jet in Major County, Oklahoma, are on private land. Oklahoma has no Bureau of Land Management public domain open to casual mineral collecting. You need explicit landowner permission, and some operations run a fee-based access model. Contact local farm operations in Major County directly. The selenite roses here grow in rosette clusters in sandy red soil, typically 2 to 15 centimeters across. Rough specimens run $10 to $50 for pieces under 4 inches. Cut and polished, those same roses bring $120 to $400 retail. And that value gap is where the real lesson lives. A rough field rose that costs $20 at the site generates a $180 retail polished specimen after wet sanding through progressively finer grits and a final polish with cerium oxide. Selenite at hardness 2 damages instantly under dry abrasion, so every step must be wet. That 2 to 10 times value multiplier is not a lapidary secret. It is arithmetic applied to geology. At the top of the ladder, Naica provenance selenite with documented pre-closure extraction. Cabinet-sized specimens, 7 to 15 centimeters of water-clear crystal, list at $850 to $2,000 from dealers including IROX and the Arkenstone. Large format slabs range from $3,200 to $4,000. The largest single Naica crystal, 50 metric tons of translucent pillar now underwater and growing, has an estimated museum replacement value exceeding $1 million. It is not for sale. It is not even accessible. But the chemistry that built it is running right now in deposits you can drive to this weekend. In the Antwerp cutting houses, the rule was simple. The value of a rough stone is entirely perspective. It exists only in what you can prove it will become. A selenite rose sitting in Oklahoma dirt is worth $20. The same rose, cut correctly, polished to show its internal radial structure, documented with provenance and locality data, is worth $200. The difference is not the mineral. It is the knowledge applied to it. The deepest insight is this. The Naica crystals are more intact now, submerged in their original hydrothermal fluid, than they were in the decade they spent exposed to dry mine air. Researchers documented visible surface dehydration damage during the open period, selenite losing bound water molecules from its outer layers, the surface becoming milky and fractured where it was once mirror clear. The flooding that seemed like a disaster was, in geochemical terms, a conservation event. The crystals are actively growing again right now, at 58 degrees, 300 meters under the Chihuahua Desert. The same phase transition that built them is operating on their surfaces this very second. Every accessible gypsum deposit you visit is operating on the same chemical logic, just at surface temperatures and slower rates. The Knolls dunes in Utah are growing. The Hourglass Selenite flats in Oklahoma are growing. The Sorbus Selenite caves in Spain are growing. The difference between those deposits and Naica is not chemistry. It is time and temperature. A hardness pick set, a loupe, and a UV lamp will get you far enough into that world to make real decisions in the field. The rest is patience. And in this particular discipline, patience is the one resource the geology has always had in unlimited supply. Back to the crystal in your hand. The one from the start. The pearly cleavage faces. The weight. The transparency. But now you know what you are holding. It is not just a pretty mineral. It is a thermometer. A clock. A record of a temperature that held steady for geological time in a flooded chamber beneath a desert. When you pick up a selenite rose from the red dirt near Jet, Oklahoma for $20 and carry it home, you are holding a process, not a product. The process is still running.